a veteran who served 3 years in the U.S. Army, serving in Headquarters Company, 5th Corps, U.S. Army in Frankfurt, Germany. In 1993, she started her own temporary staffing company, the Continental Labor and Staffing Resources, with her sister-in-law, and she's the chief executive officer. And rumor has it that she's going to be running for the 16th District State Senate, which is being vacated by Gene Fuller next year. And I would suggest to the Impact Republicans that we consider endorsing her for the State Senate District 16. Let's welcome the future District 16 State Senator Shannon Grove.
Thanks, Larry. Thank you. I did hang that on my door for a while when I first got to Sacramento, because I was really appalled at the waste of money that Sacramento had, especially with these state agencies. Now, a lot of people don't get paid, but they get per diem and travel and staff and you know, telephones and office space and furniture and all those things. And my favorite one on the list when I went through it was if I can remember it because it was a long time ago, but the California Task Force for Culturally and Linguistically Challenged Dentists. And we spend about $500,000 a year on that. Thank you, taxpayers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I researched it and tried to find out what it was, but basically it allows a dentist to voluntarily go take a test where they can get a certificate from the state of California to hang on their wall at their dental office that says that they have been culturally trained to deal with different ethnic cultures in our communities. So it's very important that we keep that committee, I'm sure. So I'm Shannon Grove. I did serve 6 years in the California State Legislature. I am running for the state Senate seat. And I'm currently out of office right now, and Vince Fong took my place up in the state capitol, and I think he's doing an outstanding job. But I want to talk to you a little bit, about me, a little bit about federal government, what I see coming, and then a little bit about California, and I promise I'm going to do it in 10 minutes or less, because that's the time frame that they gave me. So I'm a gun-carrying, tongue-talking, spirit-filled believer. It doesn't get any plainer than that. I'm a business owner in this state for 24 years in spite of this state, and I'm the first female veteran to serve on the state assembly floor. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm a mom, a wife, a grandma. I think I'm reversing those roles. I'm a grandma first. When you have grandkids, they ultimately take the first position. My kids come over and I'm like, oh, so you're Rose. And my daughter goes, hey. I'm like, oh yeah, you. So it's a really neat thing to be a grandma, and I'm really able to spend time with my grandkids while I'm out on this. But I am campaigning, I am raising money. We had our launch event January 26th. And we had about 720 people and raised almost $400,000 in Kern County. Our goal, our goal is to just continue raising money and getting endorsements, and our hope is to clear the field, because I can spend $1.5 million defeating another Republican candidate, or I can spend $1.5 million taking out a Democrat. And that's my goal. We'll see how that works. I'll keep you guys posted. I want you to know that November, I think the world changed in November. And just in case you guys haven't heard, we won, right? We did. I don't care what you see on CNN and MSNBC and now Fox. We won, even though the liberal left media thinks that we stole something for them that they think they're entitled to, and we took it, and we're, thieves of some sort. But we did win, and I think that showed a shift. When I look at what Trump did, because I don't think any of us, and I'm not speaking for all of you, but I don't think any of us with the lineup of candidates that we had, Trump was not my number one choice. He wasn't my first choice. But when he ran the primary, we all should have immediately got behind him if at the primary point or sooner. And the reason why I say that is because I look at what he did. He amassed a massive amount of voters. He brought in the disenfranchised, the disconnected, the discontented. He brought in the pro-life, the pro-followers of Christ, the pro-American, the pro-Constitution. These people came out of the woodwork to change America with their vote. I mean, he brought in Pennsylvania. When you think about that, he brought in Pennsylvania. And when you think about the way he won, I think everybody, including not only the Democrats who were lining out their next jobs with Hillary, never believing in a million years they were ever going to lose that election, but I think there were even some Republicans that were just dumbfounded at election night. But I look at it on the way up here. I can show you a picture on my phone. I should have brought it up here and passed it around. I was driving up here on I-5 and I passed this white enclosed kind of somewhat moving van, and it says resist. We are women against Trump, is what it said. And it made me think about one time when they were doing the Women's March right after Trump got elected, and they called me and they said, Shannon, you know, you represent a huge amount of conservatives in the state of California. Will you come march with us for women's rights? I go, yeah, sure. What are we protesting? And they go, we're protesting our rights, or we're protesting to engage in our rights. And I said, well, I know, but what are we protesting? I mean, we get to vote, we get to start a business, we can have a kid, we don't have to have a kid, we can get married, we can go in public, we can start a business, we can run for office. Like, what rights don't we have as a woman? Well, we're just protesting. And I said, well, okay, but tell me what you're protesting. Like, what right? We knew you wouldn't come with us. Okay. I mean, it's the same logic. When you talk to people on the other side, the same logic with the sign that was up at my door. You know, the speaker comes up to her, he sends the rules guy, John, can't even think of his name, John, but so John comes to my door and he goes, you know, Ms. Grove, you have to take that sign down. The speaker wants that sign down. And I'm like, oh, okay. He comes back a few hours later and he goes, I told you to take that sign down. And I go, oh yeah, you did. And he goes, did you understand the speaker wants that sign down? And I go, oh yes, sir, I did. And then pretty soon the Republican leader comes in. I go, I'm not taking it down. And so she says, okay. And she texts and does a few responses on email. And then she walks out and she goes, now I mean it. You know, John Perez wants that sign down. And I'm like, okay. And then pretty soon John Perez comes over and he goes, did you understand? I said, absolutely. He goes, you don't understand. I want this sign down by close of business today. Do we have any miscommunication? I said, no, sir, I totally understand that. The next day he comes back to my office and that's when they started moving me out. He said, I told you and you said you understood. And I said, I did. I understood completely that you wanted that sign down, that you didn't appreciate what that sign said. And I said, but it's my door and my sign. And he goes, I'm taking that sign down. I said, I swear to God, I'll call the cops if you touch my sign. And I know it's kind of like a petty thing, but I was so tired of being run over. You know, every day Republicans are just run over. And I think we're run over so much that we just, okay, don't just run over me right now. You know, it's kind of like Stockholm Syndrome. But we can't do that. We've got to stand up and fight. And I'm not saying that everybody goes, oh, she's just a bomb thrower, she just does this. But the thing is that we're the underdogs. We're in the super minority. Our job is to throw the bomb. Our job is to point out the things that they've done. Like the $5.2 billion tax increase every single year, right? $52 billion in a 10-year period. Gray Davis got recalled for nonsense like that. Where's the recall on Governor Brown? Where is that? What happened to the people that engaged on the Governor Davis recall when he passed a huge tax increase? And now you got sanctuary states. Let me tell you something. There's a new sheriff in town on the federal government, and I think the world stage understands that very loud and clear. And sanctuary cities and sanctuary states are going to realize it very soon too if they continue that nonsense, because Trump is going to defund and stop the money from flowing. He is. It's just going to happen. I also just wanted to share a little bit with what's going on. I think Trump is doing an outstanding job. He's trying to do his best to keep his campaign promises. He's talking, you know, Neil Gorsuch, Supreme Court nominee. Great choice, right? The bench is going to swing conservative. Hopefully we get another one this summer that we get to appoint. You've got his cabinet. You know, lawyers, if there's any lawyers in the room, no offense, but y'all tend to make things really complicated in life. He has 3 lawyers on his cabinet where Obama had 11. He has 2 Marine Corps generals, right? 2 Marine Corps generals and a Navy SEAL. And speaking from military experience, these people put their hand in the air and swore to defend the United States of America against foreign enemies, foreign and domestic, right? They know what it's like to represent the United States of America. And I think they're going to do an outstanding job. And Kelly, General Kelly was on the news the other day and he goes, they were bashing him about, you know, deportation issues, and he's like, look, I'm just enforcing the laws on the books. You don't like the laws? Change the laws. Very just a simple statement. So I think he's doing a great job. Betsy DeVos, For Secretary of Education, she's going to change the way children are educated in the United States of America, and it's going to be phenomenal. And I want you to imagine inner city Los Angeles, poor, economically disadvantaged students that have an opportunity of choice for a better education and a better future in this inner city Los Angeles. And it's going to be the Republicans that deliver that, not the Democrats. And then what are the Democrats going to do? And our EPA director, he's a climate change denier. He thinks that's a total scam for the Democrats to raise money. So when you think about the things that are going on in our federal government, I have to believe that some of that good news is going to filter down to California. And that's part of the reason that I'm running for state senate is I want to be a part of that fight. I had the opportunity to go meet Trump on his plane on the tarmac in Sacramento. I got a phone call to go meet him. I thought we were going to meet at one of the offices, and I walk into the airport and they said, Miss Grove, just wait here. And so I waited, and then pretty soon he came out of the meeting, and we walked outside and walked across the tarmac, and I'm walking up those big steps. And anybody else in their right mind would be so excited that they're walking on this big blue, maroon, white plane that said Trump, and a big leather, and the only thing I'm thinking is, holy cow, I'm armed, right? Secret Service everywhere. But when I met with him, he was very, very, very humble and very strategic and very smart. The first thing he said to me when I sat down was, oh, Miss Grove, thank you, can I get you some water? And I'm like, no, I'll get you water, right? And then we talked a lot about the Endangered Species Act. We talked a lot about oil and domestic security threats. We talked about growing our own food. We talked about jobs. We talked about bringing back wealth to the United States of America, and particularly California. It was just a very, very unique conversation. And it's kind of like when you look at John Cox, in the United States of America, we have a president who's ran a business and created wealth. He knows that the best solution to poverty is a job. And so I'm very excited about what he's doing, and like I said, I hope some of it filters down to what's going on in California. And I think the Democrats are giving us every option to eject them in 2018 because of the stupid votes that they are taking. And I'm grateful for the California Impact Republicans and a lot of our Republican team that are going to be the grassroots organization that's going to educate the people. Democrats say they care about people. They care about the disenfranchised, they care about the immigrant, they care about the poor. Well, all of us in this room are going to pay that increase on the gas tax, and we're going to gripe and complain about it, but none of us in this room are going to pick between food on our table, diapers on a kid, and getting gas in your car to go to work. So the people who were impacted were the people they profess to care about, and we need to educate those people and let them know what the Democrats are really doing in Sacramento. And I hope that you would help me get there so that in 2018 I can pick up that fight for not only conservatives in Kern County and San Bernardino and in Tulare County, but also all around the state where we have pockets of conservatives that really need a voice up there. God bless you. Thank you for letting me be here.
So I get the privilege, the honor of introducing a man who I support. This is a public announcement of that, by the way. A man who I support for governor of the state of California, who has come to join us today to make his case to us about why he should be the next chief executive officer of California. I think it's been probably 20 years or 30 years since we've had a governor in the state of California that was really a governor. We've had movie stars, and we've had left-wing automatons, and we had somebody who cared about packing the California Supreme Court with pro-choice liberal activist judges that was allegedly a Republican. But now we have an opportunity, I believe, to actually have a real Republican governor. Now, before you poo-poo this whole idea of John Cox for governor, let me tell you, Maryland went for Hillary Clinton by 1.2 million votes. Larry Hogan, their governor, is a Republican. Illinois was won by Hillary Clinton by 24 percentage points, or roughly 1.5 million votes. Bruce Raumer, their governor, is a Republican. Massachusetts, Hillary Clinton won Massachusetts by roughly 1.5 million votes, or about 30 percentage points. Their governor is a Republican. His name escapes me at the moment, but you get where I'm going. Just because the state of California is a liberal cesspool and a wasteland does not mean that we can't, with the right candidate, get a Republican governor. Here's the bottom line about John Cox, and the reason why I'm supporting John Cox for governor is very straightforward. The guy's a self-made man. This guy's a multimillionaire. He has also put $1 million of his own dollars into his governor account. So he has put his money where his mouth is and said, I am committed to this. This is not a gag. I am serious. I am serious about going all over the state to make my case. John Cox holds our values. Number two, how often do you meet rich guys that just get totally and completely soft on all the issues that matter to us because they're trying to have their cake and eat it too? They want the fiscal conservatism of the Republican Party, but they want to be soft and squishy on everything else because, you know, that's the duplicitous world oftentimes that a lot of people like that live in. And number three, I see John Cox as a disruptor. His very presence in the race for governor, okay, is an antithesis to everything that those of us who are in this room that have been involved in politics for the last, in my case, 20 years, have been forced to accept. John Cox is not one of them. He's not from their groups. He is from the outside coming in. And so he's here today to make his case to us about why we should buy into his campaign for governor and what his vision and what his plan is for the state of California. Mr. Cox?
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you for all the work that you've done, and thank you, John, for putting this together, and Todd, and all the members of the California Impact Republicans. You know, I want to tell you, I'm one of you from the standpoint that I've worked in the vineyards. Aaron didn't mention it, but I was actually president of the Cook County Republican Party. That's Chicago. And, you know, if you're going to fight the machine in Chicago, you've got to be a committed Republican, let me tell you right now. I always said that being the president of the Cook County Republican Party was a little bit like being the opposition leader to Saddam Hussein. You know, Chicago figures into my background. You know, I moved out here about 10 years ago. When I did so, my friends told me I moved to the only state in the union that makes Illinois look well managed. You know about Illinois, right? Illinois is the state where the governors not only greet you at the border, but they make your license plates for you. But I want to thank Shannon Grove as well for being here, and Jim Brulty. I mean, I know what it's like to fight the machine. And seriously, for a moment, I want to give you a little bit more of my background. Aaron, you did a great job, but I want to really tell you what has formed my being. You know, I'm not one of those guys like Mr. Newsom who was born on third base and thought he hit a triple. I started at the bottom. My mom was a Chicago public school teacher on the south side of Chicago. I was literally born at the University of Chicago. I always said that I lived and grew up in Barack Obama's district while he was back surfing in Hawaii. And you know, with my mom, a school teacher, I really saw up close corruption. And that's why I want to be your governor in 2018. Because we've got to do something about corruption. My mother, God rest her soul, she retired, by the way, to Fresno, right near here. She retired in 1980 and lived the last 20 years of her life right here in Fresno. And she always told me about how great the Golden State was. But when I was a kid, she used to come home at night, and she used to sit on the couch, and she literally would cry. She'd shed tears because she had to deal with some of the worst principals that she ever had to deal with in Chicago. And what does this have to do with California? It's about corruption. Because the principals in the Chicago public schools were chosen because they were friends of the alderman. And those kids God love them, they didn't get a good education. And I gotta tell you, you're seeing the results of it now every single weekend in Chicago. 5 murders, 40 shootings, because we're graduating, and I use that word euphemistically, we're getting kids out of school, we'll call them graduates, who don't have the skills to succeed in the real economy. And that's a crime. You know, people think about corruption as a public official getting an envelope of cash in exchange for a building permit or something like that. You know what? Corruption is way, way more than that. Corruption is any time a public official makes a decision, because that's what we hire them to do, right? Make decisions. And they make a decision that's in their political interest and not in the best interest of the people that they represent. And it's wrong. And I'll tell you, it's going to end in 2018 in California with your help. So I moved out to California about 10 years ago. Believe it or not, I'm the last member of my family. I always tell people it took me 50 years to save up enough money to buy a house here. And I discovered something. I discovered that this state is even more corrupt than Illinois. That's saying something. But you have something that's interesting. You have ballot initiatives, and we're going to talk about that for a second. I'm running for governor. It's in my blood, I guess, to try to do something about this, and Shannon knows what I'm talking about. She's fought the battle in Sacramento. But I'm running for governor because there's 2 Californias. There's the California we have, and the California we ought to have. The Golden State, the one my mom talked about. The California we have, I'm telling you right now, is in deep trouble. Do I need to recite the statistics? We're number 1 in poverty. Did you know that? This is the Golden State. This is the Golden State of the gold rush and the opening of the Pacific Rim. And we're number 1 in poverty. 12% of the nation's population lives in this state, and we have 33% of the welfare cases. We have the highest cost of living. I don't need to tell you that. You can't buy a house in San Francisco in the Bay Area. Not that you'd want to live there now. It's a wonderful place. It leans a little bit to the left, but that's okay. We have the highest income and sales tax rates. You know, usually a state that has the highest income tax rates has low sales tax rates. Well, we have both. And now, as Shannon referred to, we now have one of the highest gas taxes in the country. And going higher, I might add. Read John Kupal's column today about how they snuck in an increase of even more than we anticipated. And that's before the cap and trade regulations add a lot more to the cost of gasoline. We need to do something about the escalating cost of living, the escalating taxes and spending that the career politicians, that's what they're in business to do. And why? Because California has the largest legislative districts in the world. Not just the 50 states, the world. And that's the reason. Shannon is running for the state senate, as you know. And my hat's off to her. But as you might know, a state senate district in California has 1 million people in it. Shannon, you're running in a district. It's like running for governor of North and South Dakota at the same time. So what happens when you have to run in a district that size? You need lots and lots of money and lots of manpower, right? And that's what happens in Sacramento. We don't elect leaders in Sacramento. We elect professional fundraisers, because that's in essence what you have to do. You have to sell your soul every single day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. All they're doing is raising money. And who's giving them this money? All the cronies. All the corrupt who make life great for themselves. They're taking care of themselves, but they're making life unaffordable and unlivable for the rest of us. Well, we have a solution. I'm not going to go into all the details now, but we have a ballot initiative that we're going to start collecting signatures for in about 2 weeks. And this is going to be a revolutionary change. It's going to go beyond the part-time legislature that Shannon has so, valiantly fought for. It's going to reduce the size of districts so that we can campaign going door to door. See, I don't think people came to this country when they were fleeing a corrupt country they left, to come here and give their vote to another corrupt government. Do you think they did that? No. They came here for opportunity. They came here for freedom. And if we can get a chance to deliver that message door to door and talk to people about carrying that message of opportunity and entrepreneurship and free markets and personal responsibility and values, right? The values we hold dear, we're going to win those elections. And one thing that people totally abhor, they hate with a passion, is corruption. Last year, Chapman University did a survey. The greatest fears. What were your greatest fears? What do you think they came up with? Terrorism? Losing a loved one? The greatest fear. 65% of people said the greatest fear they had was government corruption. And this is going to be a winning issue. And I gotta tell you, it is a winning issue on Republicans, independents, and Democrats. It's across the political spectrum. And this is the way that we're going to win the governor's mansion back in 2018. All the surveys show it. And we're going to drive that point home. I don't know about you, but I'm done with an education system that's run for the unions and the teachers and not for the parents and the students. Government monopolies don't work very well. Monopolies don't work well in the private sector either. We've got to break that monopoly. I'm done with a transportation system that it doesn't repair the roads, soaks up incredible amounts of money. I don't know if you know this. Shannon talked about the gas tax. It costs 5 times the amount of money to repair a mile of road in California than it does in Texas. Wow. That's not acceptable. That means we get 20% of the roads repaired with our tax dollars. That is completely unacceptable. We're done with that. I'm ready for a transportation department that finally spends our money wisely. I'm done with having the highest housing costs in the country. We've got to build more housing. We've got to get rid of the oppressive regulations. CEQA is used as a way to drive up the cost of housing for all of us. I want my children to be able to afford a home, and I want you to make sure that your children can afford a home in California. We also have to do something about the business climate. I'm a businessman. I'm a small businessman. And what happens in California is that big business and big labor conspire to drive up the cost of doing business. You know, we're number 50 of the 50 states in business climate right now. I'm done with being the dead last on business climate in the U.S. And the spending and taxes have got to end. I don't know if you know this or not, but California generates more revenue than New York and Texas combined. What we've got to do, and I'm done with the spenders and the taxers in Sacramento, we've got to replace them with people from the neighborhoods who really have a goal of spending our tax money wisely. You know, I'm looking to inspire you to believe that we can have a Republican governor again. As Aaron mentioned, there are now 19 states across the country that have a businessman as their governor. 19 states. He mentioned Larry Hogan in Maryland, Charlie Baker in Massachusetts, but they're all over the country now. Doug Ducey in Arizona. People are waking up to the fact that politicians are there to pick their pocket and not deliver results. Well, I gotta tell you, I'm a small businessman like many of you. I have to deliver results every single day. And if I don't, I get fired. And that's what we need with our state legislature. We need a legislature that we can fire if they don't do the job. I'm going to be on the ballot November of 2018, on the same day the neighborhood legislature is also going to be on that ballot, the people of this state are going to have the opportunity to make a historic change. You're the grassroots. You're the people who will bring that change to them. I'm sorry to tell you this, the politicians aren't going to do it on their own. Am I right?
That's right.
We're the ones that are going to have to do it. I'm bringing the tools to this. As Aaron said, I put my money where my mouth is. I put $1 million into the committee, and believe me, I earned every penny of that, and that was not easy to do. And I'll put more in if I have to get this job done. I'm not going to be a Meg Whitman. I'm not going to be a self-funder. I'm going to need a lot of people to help, and we shouldn't have a self-funder. We need somebody who believes in small business, who believes in entrepreneurship, who believes in opportunity. I'm a Jack Kemp Republican. To me, I was on his steering committee when he ran for president in 1987. This is 30 years of working in the Republican vineyards. That's where I'm coming from. This is no late awakening by me. I've been involved in Republican politics for a long, long, long time. And Jack Kemp's message was opportunity. Jack Kemp's message was giving people a hand up and not a handout. It's opportunity that people want. It's not a government check. It's not cradle to grave government support. People want a chance. And I think I represent that chance. I came from nothing and built up a life for myself and my children. I want to make sure that that continues. That the American dream is the California dream, is the promise of the Golden State that my mom talked to me about when I was a little kid. I want to bring that to California. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for my children. I'm doing it for all of your children. I'm doing it for the future of this state and this country, because California is critical to the continuation of the American experience. Join me in this effort. Let's keep on the fight. Let's talk about issues. Let's keep to our values. And let's win the governorship back in November of 28 and kick out the professional fundraisers in this legislature. Thank you very much.